have one.
A little bigger print, I like that.
This is a little bigger, huh?
Mm-hmm. That spreadsheet,
Oh, it's just the agenda, by the way, the rest of it is all of that. It's probably the same.
I conveniently forgot my glasses, so I'll need somebody to read for me. No, I can probably read some of it, but if I misread something, it's because I can't see.
Here,
Well,
you want
are we
these?
on?
Wear mine?
Okay, very
Agenda
good.
item number 1.
I'm good, thank you. I'll try without for a couple of minutes until I have to admit defeat and give up. Welcome everyone at home and here in the room to our regularly advertised Public Transportation Advisory Committee today on February 11th. It is 7:02, I would say. Let's start as always with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is the review of minutes. I trust that everybody's had time to look over the minutes and made copious notes for changes and suggestions and remarks. Do I hear any requests for changes? Seeing none, I will accept these
motion, we
minutes
accept them.
as accepted. Thank you.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And with that, I don't know if you all had have received the email that Bart sent out, who can't be here today for a little house emergency. He provided some updates on several agenda items, and just to get us give us a flying start so that we can spend the majority of the time today hopefully on our goals, so that we can share them with both the planning board and the town council. Okay, this, can I enlarge this here? No, of course not. Maybe I can. What are you going to wear?
I have
Okay, these are, I mean, they're doing something.
Everything's upside down.
That's what my
It
problem is.
it works here, but it's a, yeah, you must have some kind of other issue going on besides the.
I do have a little bit of a...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's coming. Wow, that's
Wait a
interesting.
minute.
So
Well, then-
so
What are you trying to These might not have the prescription.
I'm just going to go into really quickly into our revolving discussion items. If there is anything that anybody would like to comment on or add, please stop me at any time. So as a piece of information, since the town begins its budget process so early in August for fiscal year 27 in August of 25, there tends to be kind of a lag between the coast budget request and a mismatch between the coast budget request and the town's appropriation. We'll have that rectified hopefully for next year, but because of that, the budget request is $30,000 for FY27, and we've appropriated 26, which is the amount that we had the previous year. So there's a little bit of a gap, and I'm sure that we can fill that somehow, or the town manager can, rather, being a crafty person. But the issue that I wanted to bring to our attention and thought we could maybe discuss a little bit of a way to solve it is that the 30,000 doesn't really represent the total cost of the services that Coast provides for the town. It is really a $40,000 amount, and the $10,000 gap is filled by a local foundation. Now, the foundation may or may not continue to contribute to the service that Exeter and Newmarket respectively receive. And if that were not to be the case, then the jump would be $10,000. So I think it's something that we should proactively be prepared to address in FY28. So that we could either, one of the ways to do it is, I suppose, to put aside $10,000 addition, or $5,000 additionally, so that we don't have to deal with a $10,000 jump in the appropriations, or at least communicate it to the town council, which I intend to do, of course. But I just wanted to bring that out to you and see if there are any ideas for how that might be addressed. And you don't have to come up with anything right now. I just think it's something that we should be aware of and keep in mind.
This is for the Coast on Demand service.
Yeah, that's right. That's for the Newmarket Exeter connector that runs on demand to places in Newmarket and in Exeter and some places in between.
And when we had some data on the ridership, the numbers of people
it's
using it.
actually a very well utilized. I have data, and I can share that also.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to send that out for comments for next meeting. It's a quite a well utilized service. It's somewhat limited in the days that it can be that it's available, but not too badly. And it seems that people have adopted to the change in the way it operates pretty readily, and hopefully we'll be able to keep that service going and maybe expand on it a little bit. We've had conversations about connecting to the rest of the Coast network by getting service into Durham. We have not made any progress there yet, but we'll keep at it, I guess.
So you're saying we have seen an increase since they've started this new system, since the on-demand?
Yeah, it's well utilized.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was
The most increase of any service in the Coast network besides the Portsmouth Senior Transportation
Right.
on-demand service, which is operating differently.
Well, there was a post on the town Facebook page a couple of days ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago at this point, where somebody was asking about public transportation. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw you responded to it.
Yeah, and a couple of people said, no, we don't have anything. And, there were comments that,
It's public education.
people were still not aware that this is available. I was able to say something, I think somebody else also said something.
Yeah, I saw
To
that
make
as
people
well.
aware. So
I
it
think-
seems like we still have some work to do.
I think it's
get the
always
word
good
out.
to remind people to contact the town for town information rather than getting it from social media. And this goes for everything about the town, but when people get it from social media, you just don't know your sources. And
I
it's
agree.
just so important. If they just called the town number and make sure, and I'm sure that our town administration knows the answers and will give them the right answer.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of, and now this is a little detour, and I promise it's the only one because otherwise we'll not have enough time later. But you will have noticed the little information pieces out and underneath the what is it, the heron statue? Yes. One advertising or suggesting to Newmarket residents to, go offline and, find some other things to do, and whatever the other placard says. But an information kiosk downtown that can have, rotating information, like, public transportation or moving trash days, or that there is composting at the transfer station. Things like that, I think would be really, really valuable, or for people to advertise, events that they're sponsoring. So I think a kiosk in that space is as kind of retro as it may seem to do something like that. I think it's a really valuable resource to create, or would be a really valuable resource to create. So hopefully that is something that we can undertake. And I bring that up here because I still think that there is merit to having a space downtown designated for drop-offs and pickups for public transit or any other kind of transportation service, so that it's clear, it's identifiable, it's lit, it's out in the open, it's public, and it's safe, rather than having to go up some alley and find a rider there on a side street without a proper sidewalk, for example.
Well, we created the bus stops when we did the Main Street program, and Arbor Park, it does have a bus stop.
That's right.
So that's.
You mean the pullout? Yeah.
It's a pullout.
Yeah,
It still
yeah.
says Coast Bus there. On the sign, it's still there.
Yeah.
So we have those. One thing I want to mention on the agenda, we have the chief here. He's here for one aspect of our meeting. Maybe we could move that forward so he
We
can.
will, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to race through, and and I know that the chief loves to hear all the stuff that's going on in regarding public transportation in town.
Well, I gotta be honest with you, as I'm sitting here and listening, I don't know about the public.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it is, or can you send me an email with it?
Yeah.
So I can share it?
Absolutely, yeah. I
People do
can
call us and
I can
ask
definitely do
about
that.
it.
Yeah.
Call 603-834-6010 by 5
You
o'clock
got
the
that?
night before.
But no, maybe Sanke could send something out
Yeah,
that would
no,
be
I'm
distributed to
not-
all the town members so that.
Yeah, I mean, we have an information board in our lobby, and we, scroll through different things, kind of like the kiosk that you were talking about.
Yeah.
We could put that on there. So
Yeah.
people were wondering. We have the senior center right behind us, and sometimes those are the people that are actually looking for transportation, so that would be good information, so.
So the way it works is essentially a door-to-door service that Coast offers to Newmarket residents. You can go anywhere in Newmarket or in Exeter, from Newmarket to Exeter, and back, of course, and to some select spots on the way in between. Stratham is not part of the service, therefore the stops in between are limited to the Market Basket, and
And do they pay for that, or is that paid for?
It's
there's a fee. It's a $3 fee.
$3?
Yeah, $3 each way.
Yeah. So
And
it's a very reasonable fare considering where you're going,
Yeah.
and compared to other options that you would otherwise have to take. And it's door to door, so it's pretty safe.
Okay.
And it's available weekdays except for Tuesday, and then on Saturdays between 9:15 and 5:15 to 5:30. Somewhere in that.
Yeah, and they don't like to have a late pickup.
No, they don't. Oh no, they do not want the pickup. But yes, if you call the Coast Trip Link number by 5 o'clock the night before, they'll pick you up
Or any time before.
anytime.
Yeah.
And the fact is that it's up until 5 o'clock is unusual, because other services you have to reserve by 10 or 11 in the morning before, or if not days in advance, so that it is available to anybody. No age restrictions. That's the other piece.
And it's a one of those small buses, so it's a nice size and comfortable vehicle as well. You should try it out sometime.
Honestly, we're in the
Right?
process of trying to put together like a resource pamphlet that has all sorts of different resources, but those are, we specifically had some senior people that don't drive, and they were looking for, rides to, I don't know if they would stop at the grocery stores. in
They do.
Stratham.
They do,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's where they were specifically
The
looking
Market
for
Basket
rides
Plaza and
to.
the plaza
Yeah.
across the way.
And you can book your return trip at the same time, so you can give yourself whatever window you need in order to do your
Yeah.
shopping.
Yeah, so maybe we could add it to that, because we're trying to, we have some pamphlets, but they're, we made them a few years ago, they're kind of outdated. We want to update them with some new information. People come in and frequently ask us for different resources.
Okay, very good. We'll go with that then. And then, anything else that anybody wants to add to the? No? Good. Thank you. Road typology and complete streets. We don't really have an update there. We're gonna spend the next meeting working on that, if that's okay with everyone, just so that we have enough time and we don't. Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Please use the microphone.
I can bring you in a spare.
Sorry,
You could sit
sorry.
there.
I wasn't planning on talking.
I know. I'm sorry. It's my fault. Parking infrastructure. So a couple of things there. I think as a committee we should forward a request to the town council that as per the next striping that's coming up, that the individual parking spots on Main Street that are parallel are no longer marked as individual and it's just a parking zone. So if somebody parks there and pulls forward, has a small vehicle, you can fit maybe 6 vehicles or 5 rather than just 4. Because the spaces are fairly large, and there's always some space there. And I think it would be worth, if it's not more costly to remove the stripes than it is to restripe it, which I doubt. But
Yeah, that
it
would be cost
it would be
savings.
worth it would be worth trying out. I think we've had it before,
Right.
and I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure why we moved to marking individual parking spots. Maybe you have some info there being around now. So and I don't quite see how it would be worse having just a parking zone. So that's my suggestion,
No.
that we go ahead with that and see if we can't basically create out of the same space better utilization.
Absolutely. I
More
would agree with
quantity.
that. I've got photographs of a motorcycle taking up a whole spot. I've got photos of a small car that you could fit 2 of them in right in front of the Oak House building. So there are a couple of blocks that will add 1 spot by doing 1 more car by doing that, so people aren't taking. Some of our spots are 25 feet long, and I went and measured them at UNH, and they're like 19 feet long.
Mhm.
So, and those are the individual spots because they do have, they've got very tight parking. It's really tight.
Right, right. And people manage to use them anyway.
Is there, Lindsay, is there like an engineer's opinion on what is more effective, no lines versus lines?
I am not aware of any
Yeah.
specific opinions. I see both used all over the place. I don't have a personal opinion.
Yes.
I think it can go either way.
Yeah.
You can get more spaces or more cars in vehicles in when you park efficiently.
Yeah.
You can also get some not so great parkers that end up taking up more space and making it more difficult for getting all of the vehicles in, so it's a trade-off.
Yeah, I wonder if, doing part of the downtown, each way would make sense.
Oh, you mean to compare?
Yeah. I don't know how we would actually, I guess I don't know how we're going to form our opinion either, whether or not it's working or better or worse. There
I think it would have to
conceivably
be,
would be cons to it as well, right?
yeah, it would
It-
have to be something that we coordinate with PD and parking enforcement so that we can
Yeah.
get some sort of data collection or metric to see if it is a better turnover
Yeah.
or more people parking. I don't know if that's something enforcement could necessarily provide, or we
Yeah, I
could,
mean.
we could set something up.
honestly, So the parking enforcement officer we have now hasn't been doing it as much, but when we had Mike LaBranch before, every day he was down there, he had a little counter and he was just counting the times and
Mhm.
places. You both count how many open spaces we had, but we could certainly say, hey, keep an eye on this, tell us if we're getting more, less. I don't think they pay attention to the lines right now. You'll see
Yeah.
cars, if they can squeeze in there, they generally do. I think getting rid of the lines is probably a good idea, and just, if you can squeeze a bunch of small cars in there, then so be it. We're trying to let people squeeze into places that are appropriate. You talk about a motorcycle, those triangles, we're trying to let motorcycles know.
That'd be great.
Park there.
Yeah.
Save a spot for a car or something like that. But I think getting rid of the lines makes a lot of sense. We don't really enforce it if they're over the lines within the spots anyway. We generally might if they come out into the roadway, like
Yeah.
sticking out into the
Right.
lane, but not from space to space.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that the old marking individual spaces goes back to parking meters, and here's a meter, here's a spot.
I agree with you, like, this spot is designated for
Yeah.
this, and I think that's what it was intended for, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't appear to me at least that they even pay attention to those lines regardless, especially if they think they can squeeze in to a small spot, and for the most part, if they're out of the roadway, we're trying to let that roll, so.
Yeah, yeah. Now, is Mike LaBranch still in town?
He is, I see him around frequently, he stops in
Okay.
and talks to us every once in a while, but.
So I think he might be a valuable resource for us to find parking opportunities.
Yeah, he may. He hasn't done it now for maybe a year and a half, but he
Yeah.
definitely was doing a lot of counts for us and paying attention to things like that. The new officer we have that does it is pretty good too. So I know she's
Yeah, she's been here for a year and a half now.
just about a year.
Yeah.
So.
Would you be okay with her coming into this meeting sometime? and
Yeah,
talking
I
to us?
certainly would have it if she wants to.
Yeah, right.
She's a different personality than Mike. Mike might be willing to come in.
Yeah.
I'll see what she says. So.
Yeah, yeah, because they're there all the time. I'm sure something rambles in their mind, like, this is kind of dumb, but whatever, it's the rule.
Yeah,
You know?
sometimes we were talking earlier about the ordinance and having it to be changed and maybe making some adaptations,
Yeah.
It's pretty old the way that,
Yeah.
that things are done, and I think that we can find some different places and spaces that we can add and make things more efficient.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, very good. That sounds like there's general consensus that we should at least try it for 1 year, and it sounds to me like both the town engineer and the chief of police are saying that it's going to be either a toss-up or better. Therefore, seems like a good thing to try, at least on the parallel spots in.
If
right
we're
on Main
writing a
Street.
letter to the council on this, would we want to have Public Works get a motorcycle stencil for those triangles? So that people know, because otherwise they just don't know. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be something that we would need to identify the actual triangles where parking we would want to encourage it. And I don't think all of them would lend themselves to that.
Yeah.
So that would be something that I would look to you two, or to you, Lindsay, to identify the spots, and then we would either purchase or borrow a stencil, I suppose. But I was just looking for a kind of consensus from the committee to bring this to the town council as a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think we need to take a formal vote. I think it's fine if we just
Yep.
Okay, very good. Then we'll move that ahead, and I think it's worth a shot, and does something.
And we're now in urban compact, is that right?
We are not yet.
Not yet.
Almost.
Hold your breath.
How long?
Are we good with anything else around parking that we should address before we move to a quick review of the wayfinding and?
I suppose, especially since the chief's here and he mentioned that the ordinance is fairly antiquated, especially in terms of the permits. And the permits are all the same price, whether you're way out in Railroad or you're at down at Joyce's Kitchen
Yep.
on Water Street. And it doesn't seem to make sense. I know Portsmouth came upon this idea too, that you should have gradient parking fees.
Mhm.
The closer to town, the more expensive it is, and further out, all the way to the point they have free parking in Portsmouth. And actually, so do we. Well, we got free parking everywhere. But is there a movement to rewrite that ordinance so that we're, I know that you've done some work with some,
Yeah, so we're actually gonna talk to the council on next Wednesday about it a little bit. There's two things, two components. One is updating the current ordinance, which we have, and just talking about the fines. The fines are old and not, significant enough to encourage people to move along. In identifying some areas that should be added to the limited parking or paid parking or whatever you want to call it. And then the second component is, do we want to go to paid parking? Do we want to talk about fee parking downtown? And then that kind of drives people to those other parking lots, the ones where
Right.
you might say they're free. Like example would be the Bay Road lot or the Dame Road lot. Like, hey, you can park here for free, or you can park downtown for 50 cents an hour or 25 cents, whatever the town talks about. But one of the vendors that we were speaking to, actually, they all have the same thing. Like, as you get closer to town, it's more expensive, and as you get further away, all the way
Right.
out to free. And you're trying to drive people to these parking lots that they wouldn't normally park in, with the idea like, hey, you can park here for free, or if you want to park downtown, it might cost you a couple bucks. So that is part of the thing that we're talking about, or we plan to talk about, and to just kind of get the council's opinion, like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Do you want to think about it? What are your visions?
Yeah.
I've heard a couple of people say that I don't want to go to paid parking, or they're not really sure about it. But I think this is just me. I feel that we have an asset down there, that this is something we should utilize to encourage the parking to be transient and move people around.
Yeah.
Maybe collect some fees that help us, prepare some other parking going forward, and also identify a different process. I talked about like contractors that work down there. Can they buy a permit for the week? We really don't have anything set up right now for that. That allows the town to, get some fees for utilizing their spots. Also identifying like the Dame Road lot. Currently, that's just a free parking lot. Do we want to make that, permit parking? As the winter has gone on, that has become more and more full all the time, and it might be something the town wants to look at and say, okay, we're going to make this permit as well. But the whole idea about the paid parking, that comes with a permit process that we don't currently have.
Right.
Currently, they got to come to the police station and fill out forms and put stickers in their window. This
Yeah.
would be a much more high-tech program.
I guess my challenge I see is our blocks are fairly short, so you'd probably need a machine at each block, and there's only like 5 spots on each block.
Most of the places that we've talked to have completely done away with the kiosks.
Oh,
They said
really?
The kiosks are.
Oh, just so it's on your app or phone?
It's on your phone, or there's
Yep.
a phone number that you can call.
Yep.
Or there's a way that you
That's
can
ideal,
do a
yeah.
parking. Some places have the kiosks now, and they told us that they're such a pain that as they die, they just don't replace them. And
Right.
most everybody uses the app, and they said they haven't had much pushback for people that aren't tech savvy. There's a phone number you can call, and like put
Yep.
your credit card number.
Yeah,
in or something like that.
everyone's got a phone. It's we did this 10 years ago. We did that study with parking meters and
Yeah.
kiosks, and finally the decision was do nothing.
Yeah.
But this technology, the phone thing, wasn't around back then.
It seems other than putting the signs and stuff up and, getting us signed up for the program. There's not a lot of work that would need to be done
Yeah.
other than rewriting the ordinance and things
Yep.
of that nature. But, you're not gonna have to drill holes. We could put signs where we have signs now, and depending on which vendor you select, they'll come in and do all that for us.
Yeah.
And they can either collect a fee or we pay a fee,
Yeah.
so.
And I do like some communities have like the first hour free, and then you go to pay. And it gets more and more as you go 3 hours, it's really getting
Right.
pricey.
Like if you stay for an hour, it's nothing. If you stay for 2, it's a price. It gets more expensive if you
As
want
you
to stay
go
all
and
day. Other places have done things too that residents can park for free, and
Yeah.
people that are coming in from the outside have to pay a fee.
Yeah,
but-
Portsmouth is looking at that right now, yeah,
so.
yeah. But, yeah, you have to have a resident sticker or something then, too.
Right, or the app gives
Oh,
them a
know
sticker
it.
to put in their window that says they're a resident.
Yeah.
So.
Is that the issue you came to talk about today? Or is there
No,
something
I
else?
just came to hear what you guys were talking about parking and stuff.
Okay.
Like, I really didn't have anything specific. I just
Yeah.
felt like you guys were talking about a lot of these things and, trying to get a flavor for where you guys
Yeah.
are heading on things like that.
Well,
so.
one of the pieces that I think we're missing around parking that would be helpful in that discussion is a map with assume that signage and is already there. It exists, right? We've gone through that process. The lots are named, identified with a sign, and there's info there and all of that. That we have a map that identifies how long it takes to go from this lot to a specific, let's say, Arbor Park as the central spot. So this is the walk time it would take, and that also kind of delineates how you get there. And so as we move forward, we can prioritize a little bit these pathways for beautification and making them attractive, making them a pleasant way to move from the parking to downtown. Without a map, you can talk about a Dame Road lot to somebody from out of town forever. They will never know where that is, and they'll likely park downtown because that's safe. And then I know where I am, and I can see my car. But if you have information that visually represents where these spaces are, you might find that people will be more apt to go there, especially if that parking is free.
Don't quote me on this, but one of the apps had like a map you can pull up on your phone.
Yeah.
It not only shows you what's being utilized, but it shows you different locations where you can park. I don't know if we would get that specific, and each component is a different price or fee or something. But one of them was talking about that. They, for example, if you're in Portsmouth and the lot's full, you can pull up the other lots and say, oh, I can go over here and park.
Yeah.
That's full. So
Yeah.
that might be something. And I not everything should rely upon technology, but we've, we certainly could maybe get them or print up some maps that show people where they can park for free.
I mean,
Or
we
if
we
that's
have
what
a
we decide.
lot right down here
Yeah.
that is underutilized. That is in perfect walking distance to downtown, and it's a safe lot. We have parking, along the street here in front of Town Hall that is that's underutilized. So I think identifying, marking it with a sign, that will go a long way to generate better utilization. And I think it would be nice to have a funding stream. I'm not sure how much money one could generate from parking downtown, so I'd be interested to hear what is actually possible there. I'd rather be cautious and stay away from charging for parking. But if there is a way to generate funding to maybe pay for signs at outlying lots or something like that, that might be useful, or for a kiosk or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to put a number on it, but I would say that most of the towns that have gone to paid parking were shocked at the money that it brought in. So, and
In a good way or not?
in a good way, like they were very
Sure you
surprised.
understand. Okay.
Yeah.
And as I said, now our system is kind of outdated, and I talked a little bit about it. You park, we mark your tire, we come back 2 hours later. If you get a ticket and you pay it, and that may bring in, some money. I think last year maybe it might have been in the neighborhood of $60,000, but I think some other towns or cities that we've talked to along the way. Now they're different, so you
Right.
can't. But one town in Maine thought that they were going to get about $500,000, and I think they got $4 million. So now I'm not saying we have that kind of parking, but that's
This is a beach town?
yes. So they had a lot more parking.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
what their estimate was we haven't run into anybody that has come in under what they thought they were going to make.
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying that everything has to be that way. Like we could make it free parking, and there's times where you could be like, we don't want them holidays. We don't want people to have to pay, or certain days of the week. And you can set the time limits too.
Yeah.
So, but I think as we travel around the seacoast, it seems everybody has it except us, and maybe Exeter. When I go to Portsmouth and Dover, I'm not offended that I get a park and pay for it. I find the apps very easy. Especially when I'm in Portsmouth. Now that I have it set up on my phone, literally, if you pull into that parking lot and you hit the app, it says, "Do you want to park here?" You hit a button and you're off.
Yeah, there's some private lots doing that too. Same
Yeah.
thing, same app, and
And the other thing is, for example, you're out to dinner or something, and you're like, "Oh, my parking's expiring." You can just hit the button, and
Yep.
so it saves a lot of people from getting a ticket, which is not very pleasant. So
Right, right.
well, I think it's still like $15, right?
$20. Yeah,
$20.
20, $30.
There are some people who say it's so rare they get a ticket, they just whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
we're talking about that too. Like, if we don't go to the paid parking, are we going to increase the fines? Because now sometimes the incentive is not there to move.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. Thank you. Looking at the parking near me, 'cause Google Maps, I go a lot of places and go parking near me, and we did pick up a whole bunch of parking spots, but still, the Dame Road lot's not on there, and it's not something. It has to be a town official that contacts Google and says, yes, this is really a parking lot, and it's you can do it as easily as from your phone, but I can't personally do it because I'm not a town official, but you can identify that one more lot. And I do agree that one should be another opportunity for permit parking. I think Beach Street Extension is another opportunity for permit parking.
Yeah, we run into a little bit of issue there that they rent that building out.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to figure out a way to, allow people to park there, but if there is an event there, make sure that there's parking for
Yeah.
the people. So we have to.
Even if it was just 10 spots.
Right.
And that's,
Right. No, because I would take care of New Village and people that don't have spots down there.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It costs money parking costs money, so it shouldn't really be free.
Well, and that's one of the reasons to talk about the ordinances. Do we want to include this lot? Do we want to include Dame Road? Do we
Yeah.
want to, make some adjustments? This lot out back here is not listed as a permanent parking.
Right.
Right.
Should it be?
It just can't be used on Sundays.
Right.
'Cause that was kind of the
Because
agreement.
there's a component of
Yeah.
So all those things we have to consider that,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But like you say, that pay and display, those programs can do that.
right. The permit process would be much smoother than what we currently have. It's just the way that both the ordinance is written and the program that we have. We just recently went to being able to pay the ticket online. You used to have to either mail in a check or something. So
Yeah.
we're getting there, but
Yeah.
so.
Sounds like there's some good opportunities there. Anything else around parking?
No, but there's one, I guess one other thing I was two
Anything that we
things
should bring to the
with the chief.
council?
Well, with the chief, I'm hoping that maybe once a year we could have you kind of report to us as far as traffic safety issues, any items, pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, all those. We used to do it with the traffic safety committee. Once a year we had that report. And there was another item too, but that would be great, very helpful for us to help plan what should we be doing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I know that Lindsay's working on a few different things. She kind of identified some traffic concerns over by Bennett Way and what used to be the Rite Aid and is now the Dollar General. I know that there's some process working through on that. That was one of our main spots where there was some danger. So there's some things going on there. But yeah, I mean, certainly we could look at some things and identify some tough spots. You know, I would say one of the things that we're having incredible difficulties with, and right now we're not because it's cold, but it's those electric scooters and things of that nature that are just all over the place. And you know, some of them are capable of doing 40-50 miles an hour, you know, and you got kids riding them. And so the state is both looking at different ways of dealing with that, and we are as well, you know, through, you know, one program that we're doing is educational program at the school with the school resource officer at the elementary school. The young kids are very concerning, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And I know in bigger cities, the next thing to come is the automated delivery robots that are scooting across sidewalks and crosswalks, and that's a big concern in a lot of places, and it'll get here, just be 10 years.
Yeah, I
down the
wonder
road.
if the automated cars, you know, currently they're not really permitted here, but it would seem that they're going to come here eventually.
They're proven to be safer than they don't get drowsy, they don't drink.
Yeah.
They're much safer, but
Right.
people hate them.
Yeah. And then, like anything, they're not perfect, and everybody focuses on, you know, some
Yeah.
of the mistakes that, you know, I don't know, the Waymo ones out in the Midwest they're having issues with now, but you know,
Yeah.
like you said, they're a lot safer. You know, you're not having impaired drivers, but
Yeah.
no system is 100%.
Yeah, some of them weren't pulling over for emergency vehicles.
Or school buses were the big ones, you know. so-
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. I'd like to move on to. Okay. Has everybody read through the branding and wayfinding request for proposal? Were you able to submit edit suggestions and?
I know I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were.
So you find what you submitted is there? Is there anything that we should ask Bart to change?
I wanted to ask about, we've been talking a lot about the idea of a kiosk downtown in Arbor Park or the town center. Do we need to specifically have them, whoever does the study, talk? I think that's the Arts and Culture Commission that put that sign out there.
It is, yeah. They
You-
put the,
But the Arbor Park is not controlled by them, so.
no, it's just they got
But the
permission to put
Yeah.
that.
And I think they have one, at least at the holidays, they had one in front of the library.
Mhm.
So, do we need to
Mention that specifically?
mention that they need to bring them into the fold when they're doing their study, because they've already got infrastructure out there? Are we considering replacing that, or
Well, I am.
working, adding to it,
Mhm.
or?
I don't know that that kiosk, or that we should mention anything specifically in here. And my understanding is that the town planner's vision for this is for it to be a very interactive process with whomever is providing the service to to shape how the process is done and what
Yeah.
will be done. So we can bring that into the mix.
Well,
at that time too.
there is language toward, when we're talking about making the final decision, there is language about them presenting,
Right.
to stakeholders, or I think that might be the word, I can't recall off the top of my head what the exact language is. But, my concern is that, we come up with an idea, and then arts and culture people, they already have a sign there, and they say, well, wait a minute, you have a sign with this nice heron on top, and you're coming in with a different.
Yeah, they got permission from the town to put that there, but it was also said that it was easily movable. For
Okay.
if it needs to be moved, it can be. So because that whole park is going to be redeveloped at some point. There, Robbie Woodburn, the landscape architect, the town had her do a conceptual plan. It's a beautiful plan. It's just there's no money to do it.
Oh.
But that's the master plan. Someday we'll move towards it.
Mhm.
But then that was a consideration with that thing, that piece of art being there, is it had to be movable.
Right.
They said, yeah, it will be. So it is really, I think that typically Steve makes those judgment calls on putting something there. And, so it does have to be approved by the town to put something.
Well, if we're considering putting something there under this program, then there would be two signs.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I think, I see that not as a. It would have to be an integrated kind of concept with, what's there and the kiosk. I was thinking of the kiosk not so much as a. As a sign, but as a way for anyone in town, including a commission or whatever, to display things and to present things, and maybe we don't need much beyond what's there, but I just wanted to take advantage of that space as a central space in town, and make it inviting, and while people are there, to provide the opportunity to learn something about the town or what's going on in town.
Absolutely, but I don't know anybody, I don't know how that got there, it just showed up before the holidays. And
the statue
right.
and the triangle.
And,
Yeah.
right, and it's nice, because you drive by and you're like, oh, what's going
Yeah.
on, I find myself looking for that
Right.
sign. But if they've put it there, I don't, my question is, do we need to do the polite thing and make sure that whoever is doing the branding study is aware of that,
I
or
think
talks to them?
it's up to us to make sure that the people conducting the work know which stakeholders to include.
Yeah, no, I think.
That's kind of the job that we would have.
Yeah, I
or
feel
the-
like this is getting down into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, the RFP is to get somebody to do a proposal, to look at everything.
Right.
Which will be including the stakeholders, and if we start going down this route, I see us coming up with reasons to ask everybody in town.
That's
And
true.
I know, it seems to me that, it's a proposal to come up with, to do a study.
Yeah.
And the study has to include stakeholders and community feedback.
Yeah.
And that, so let me just look at the verbiage again. So that is at the end, where they say when some branding options have been come up with, that's not the wording.
Yeah.
but
Three
the-
options for
three
visual brand
options,
elements.
And then it says, that they, why can't I find it? We're talking about the decision-making process at the end, after options have been developed.
Conflicts of interest certification is every year.
Oh, I think it's the top of page 2. I think is what you're creating the distinct
Yeah,
visuals.
yeah, create.
And then they're gonna come up with a document, and at some point it says that what the process will be, who will make the final decision, and, well, so anyway, I can't get my eyes on it right now, but somewhere it does say that interested stakeholders will be part of the final decision-making process, I believe. But my only question is, you know, as long as we have it in mind that, you know, maybe we have to consider that sign, that existing sign, you know, I mean, if the branding, just as an example, if the branding comes up that it's a fleur-de-lis, I don't know, whatever it would be, and then we have the heron there with the sign, the Arts and Culture Commission has been using that, you know, there's a potential for conflict, is what I'm saying. And as long as we're aware of that, and, you know, we talk to them and include them, I don't think it's a problem. My question is, do we need to put that in the wording? And it seems like the consensus is we do not.
No, I think if we start naming one stakeholder, we'll, you know,
Right,
go down
we'll go
into
down, right.
a really long list, and
Yeah, I mean,
and I think it's important that we kind of keep it open, and allow for that to be kind of an iterative process.
I mean, because we could say the same thing for the church. The church has a sign out front, and they have things that they post. There's places that, so it seems in the first page it says, you know, stakeholder engagement.
Mm-hmm.
It's just once again, making sure the word gets out that these conversations are happening.
Yeah.
If you have an opinion.
And that'll be up to us too, and to the town administration to generate that that awareness, and to invite people, make sure that you know, the business association is there, that, you know, interested parties or interested groups are invited,
Yeah.
and are on mailing lists, and those things are shared with the with whomever is going to be providing this service.
Well, I think that's asked and answered, so let's move on.
Okay. Any other? All good?
It's all
Excellent.
good, let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm excited. Okay, and before I jump into the goals, you had developed some committee goal suggestions
Yes.
for us to
Yep.
consider.
Yep.
Did you have a chance to look at, when I said you, I meant Mike, for those who are not following my eye gaze out there. Did you see yourself, did you see the goals that you developed kind of fitting in here at all, or
Not really. These
more
goals.
specific, right?
Yeah, these goals came from the master planning
That's right.
process,
Yeah.
and I'm a little surprised that parking didn't float as much to the top. There is one mention of creating a parking plan or something, but during that whole master plan process, that seemed to be a big component of what people were talking about. And I think I was looking at more specific, concrete things that the public can see, touch. You know, an additional parking spot, people know about it. You know, rather than reports and studies. You know, I like things that the public sees we did something. We increased the number of parking spots downtown. That's a good goal. You know? Something and that was so much of what people were talking about during the whole master plan process. I'm trying to pull up the ones that I had written down. Let's see.
I think I have them too, but besides that, but while you're doing that, if we just look at the sections or the transportation goals here, as they are going to be in the master plan, I think we're essentially following these already, and we're addressing the vibrancy piece anyways. And I think all of our activities thus far are, really pursuing some of these identified priorities in the master plan. But I agree with you that in order to make that something real and tangible that we can not only point to but also say, hey, look, we did that.
Right.
We need to become a little bit more concrete, or we need to have something that's maybe not as that's just a little bit more finite, that we can accomplish within a couple of months, not issue an RFP, but actually have done,
Right.
started and completed
Right.
within. We should have at least, just for our sake as a committee, so that we can feel that we're making headway here. I think we should identify for ourselves some very concrete charges that we would like to see done this year, that we would like to do this year, put it that way.
Yeah, and I do have that document. I mean, it was just kind of something to get people thinking about it. And I guess I can't really, I'm not really supposed to share it amongst the whole committee except for in a public setting, because it would be easy is I'd just email it to everybody. But
You
that's
can
Oh, Bart
email it, we
did-
just can't have email correspondence.
Okay, so I'll
through the-
forward
so
this
that
to
sharing is
everybody.
fine, yeah.
Bart
Yeah,
did
okay.
send it out, I think.
okay. He did.
Didn't he?
I haven't seen it.
Oh.
I think it was just to you and Bart. I sent something to you and
I
Bart.
saw it.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was looking through my papers to see if
Okay.
you handed out a paper.
Yeah.
Oh, I handed out a paper too.
Yeah, I don't know why I
Right.
don't have that.
Right. I
I'm-
did.
Yeah.
You can email it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll do that. I'll share that, and yeah. But it was just to get the concept of having short-term, long-term goals.
Right.
And usually, I always look at short-term or the free or cheap ones, the most important ones, but also the ones you don't have to budget for and don't take a lot of planning. Like if we did some street reconfiguration, it takes a long time to do that. But if it's restriping the parking spots or not striping the parking spots, that's free or close to cheap, or actually maybe cost savings.
Yeah.
You can do those right away.
I wonder whether it'll be a cost savings or whether removing the lines will
They
be.
don't have to. They wear out almost every year.
Yeah.
They just wear out, and all the
Right.
lines have to be repainted once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So we'll just let them go. So one of the pieces that we had talked about was once we have an urban, there is an urban compact. Even if it's not going to be an urban compact, is it? It's going to be something like it.
So
Because isn't an urban compact an area compact within which all streets are
it
under
can
the
be
control?
sometimes. For
Ah.
this, it's going to be, it's urban compact is the designation. So
Oh.
it's a classification of the roadway.
Gotcha.
So rather than it being a classified or a class 1 or class 2 state highway, it will still be a numbered route, but there will be a segment of the corridor that is urban compact designation, which is town maintenance for winter and summer. And we still coordinate with DOT,
Right.
but have more flexibility with that. So that when that is finalized, the area we're talking about is from on New Hampshire Route 108,
Mhm.
from the Durham town line to the car wash.
Yep.
I think it's 92.
Where the 30 zone ends, basically.
Basically where the 30 zone ends. And 152 from the intersection of 108 to Grant Road. That's currently designated as a town local road, but it's a state route, so it would be part of the urban compact. So it would be those two state route segments together would be the urban compact area. It doesn't expand into other roads that come off of it, it's just that corridor.
And doesn't it include Jerry Ave as well?
Jerry Ave would be reclassified as well, but it's not a state numbered route. It would be reclassified as a town road.
It's just a town road, and Packers Falls Road
And Packers
also.
Falls Road and Grant Road from 108 to the end of state maintenance. I forget where that is, near Shanda Drive, maybe?
Yeah, it's
It's
past,
out-
a
it's
little
out
bit
there.
past, there's
Yeah.
a sign.
There's a sign there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of some frost heaves out there on Grant Road that we should post because they're very significant. I mean, very
Is this like
significant.
double diamond experts only, or?
Yeah, yeah, or if you don't care about your car,
Those are-
drive at the posted
Those
speed
are
limit.
traffic
Otherwise, slow
calming
down.
devices. There's speed humps.
Yes. Yeah. No. These are
They're cheap and free.
these are take a little flight kind of.
Well, there's some,
Bumps.
there's some pretty impressive ones on Bennett Way right now, too.
Yeah. Well, but that's a slower
It is slow.
Grant
It's downhill,
Road.
so
I love this time of year because everyone slows down.
Well, where was I going to? Oh, so
The urban compact thing.
yes, I was going to say about marking for bicycles on Packers Falls Road, and where we're talking
share
about, where
roads?
we're talking about
Oh, Main
stencils,
Street.
and replacing those and making that part of the ideally part of the striping work this spring,
The
if
Cheryl
possible.
markings.
Yes, the sharrows. Yes.
Yeah, that
Such-
was
such a-
part of that engineered design for Main Street because we didn't have enough of a shoulder. Well, by far we don't have shoulder for bicycles, but that design that came up when we redid it, they did have the share road markings and they just haven't never been redone. Well, you don't own the stencil. That's one of those things I think that, boy, I tell you, I know Durham owns a stencil. It's like, we shouldn't have to, we should have, well, there is that Public Works consortium where you can trade stuff. We have, there's a Public Works thing. where you
How
can-
expensive are those stencils?
One that big would probably be $200.
And
That's pretty big. They're big.
And if you're gonna do it every year, or every other year, that would seem to be a worthwhile investment
Yeah.
to have.
So
Yeah.
$200 for a stencil.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I just think
That's not bad.
for Packers Falls Road, it's just one of those, it's since 108 is not the safest road to be bicycling on, and since the sharrows are on the entire Durham section of Packers Falls Road, and then when people come on to Packers Falls Road here in Newmarket, and I think it would be nice if we could have those continue all the way, and really try to designate that a bike route that and promote it that way, because it's a sign. Not putting up signs, bike route or anything like that, because more signs are not necessarily better, but having that on the pavement I think would be very helpful. I certainly noticed those sharrows. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think it would be a helpful thing to do, and it would be a concrete, accomplishable thing that we could do this year.
I think that might be one of the DOT bike routes already. I know that.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we
Yeah.
could put a sign up. I don't know that signs are.
No, the
not
share road
helpful.
markings are supposed to be effective, but you're right, road signs, many DOTs are trying to get away from all sorts of caution this,
Yeah,
caution that,
yeah.
because people don't pay attention to them, but they
Sign
used to put them
salad.
up because somebody requested it.
Right. Right. I mean, so that's something I would say we should put forward. In addition to the removal of the lines, or letting the parking lines fade away, to stencil the Main Street and Packers Falls Road with sharrow markings, shared roadway markings. Sharrow sounds so strange. It doesn't quite say what it
Big call.
is,
I know, it doesn't sound good now. Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
that's what they are.
No, I'm not as much a fan of the. I really think the Packers Road Sharrows and the Bay Road Sharrows in Durham are sort of a cautionary tale about like putting down some paint, but not really changing the function of the road. I don't see anybody. I think most people just ride, on the shoulder, because of the speed of the traffic coming down that road. So I think essentially in Durham, it functions the same as having no paint at all, and so I don't really think that those Sharrows really do much,
Well, I don't know if they do or don't. I do know that when I, as a bicyclist, see them, I feel encouraged because I'm not the only one who sees them. Drivers see them too, and I feel like I'm a wanted person here. I'm a wanted participant in the environment. That's how I look at it. It's not necessarily safer, because safety for a bicyclist is, if you're behaving properly, is really determined by drivers paying attention and kind of driving the speed limit. But that, you can't control that with anything, whether it's signs or layout, really.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, the signs, the stencils, they're just a little tick in the driver's mind.
Right.
That there may be bikes around the next bend. There may be bikes in this
Exactly
road,
right.
and I think that's very important.
Yeah, and I think it offers consistency if we have that too, because then it's still the entire length of the road, and I think that's quite an accomplishment for us to have a designated road and market all the way between the two towns. I think that would be helpful.
I just think that a Sharrow is supposed to be, the bicyclists are supposed to have an equal right to that lane as the driver. But, because of the speed of Packers Falls, no bicyclist is going to use that whole lane. They're going to be on the shoulder. So I think it, which is what they would do also if it might alert them, but it's not functioning as a Sharrow. It's kind of like, an in between.
Yeah, I believe the intent of the Sharrow is a reminder to motorists that bicycles do have a right to the lane. There are many motorists who feel the bike is supposed to be on the crumbly edge, or on the outside of the fog line, which sometimes is on the edge of pavement, and that's when they're used when there's really inadequate space over here, or it's dangerous for them to be right next to cars parked where they could get doored. There was a guy who was killed in Durham from getting doored. So that's when you want bikes to feel comfortable using the lane, and cars to know, yes, they do have a right. A reminder, because I think when everyone takes a test, in a driver's test, you're told you have, yes, everyone's got a right to lane, but people seem to forget it. And bikes really shouldn't. These roads are designed for cars, not bikes. Is kind of the attitude of some people, and I do think they help some motorists, especially Durham Point Road was pretty well marked, and it's also pretty well used recreationally. And I think it's a good reminder for motorists. And I mean, we all find ourselves going too fast sometimes.
Right.
And it's a good reminder. So yeah, it could be a bike over this hill.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a
you can't see it.
fairly
Yeah.
inexpensive thing to do.
Yeah.
Also, and I think for that it's worth it.
Yeah, I think the science is behind it. I think that the engineering science is behind it. There's so much stuff you can look up online on this and see.
Are there other roads that in town, Lindsay, that you think we should look at from that perspective, besides Packers Falls Road? Is Grant Road a road that we should consider? I know that
Consider
people
adding
do
Sharrows?
ride. Yeah, I know that people do ride out on Grant Road to, pick up the trails down in Newfields, for example, or to create larger loops with the rail trail, and it is a similarly designed road as Packers Falls Road.
I wouldn't necessarily think for the whole length of Grant or like the extending further out, but maybe as far as where the school zone ends on Grant would make sense. The sharrows are they are intended to grab attention, and if they're just on a full length of a road, it's kind of a waste of pavement markings and paint, and a lot of effort to
Yeah.
repaint them every year. So those long stretches, I would steer away from that.
Okay.
But the segment that is within the school zone and closer to the school area, where you may have kids riding to one of those neighborhoods or something like that, then the sharrows can be a lot more effective, and it also kind of helps to draw attention to a more densely populated area where you may see people coming out on their bikes and going down the road a little bit and then off, but not so much for the like cyclists that are out doing longer loop rides and stuff like that. I'll give it some thought, but
Yeah, just to see where, I mean, if we're going to suggest that we invest in a stencil, then maybe.
yeah, having some other areas identified would be
Yeah.
helpful. It probably would also be worth talking with the PD to get their input on where they think some of those could
Where they
be
see
more
riders.
effective, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Can I tout Bay Road again? Have you considered Bay Road from Main Street up to at least Cushing? There's a lot of bicyclists there, and
That's
then
true.
there's that pinch point. It's blind
Yeah,
because
all
of the
of-
vertical
Yep.
curve.
And that's
So, can
another
you
one that's
consider
like a
that one?
reasonable segment because it's closer to downtown and it is more densely populated than the further out segments of Bay Road. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a big loop with UNH, whether it's a bicycle team, ski team, cross-country team. There's a lot of activity on that loop.
Yeah, I mean, we get the cross-country, the high school cross-country team that runs up Bay Road in that area. So, you'll come over a hill in the spring and there's
A big
30 of them.
10 high school kids running,
Yeah.
in addition to the normal pedestrian and bicycle traffic that's
My
along
favorite
there.
is the cross-country ski team practicing in the summer on Lee Hook Road or something to that effect, because they take up so much room with their skis, on
Because they
rollers.
have on rollers.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Cross-country
quite
ski
daring,
team.
I think, to be on the road with those.
Well, they go down that hill on Promise Creek on those things.
That's fun on the bike. I don't know about them. Yeah. That's good. All right. So one of the we're all kind of maybe a little impatient around the ability to not be able to change infrastructure so quickly, but something that I'm not as aware of as I should be, and that may be true for all of you, is our plan around extending the sidewalk network in town. I don't know if there are any segments planned for any time in the future, Lindsay, but would it be helpful for us to take a look at that as we're doing the wayfinding and signage RFP, so that we can have that information flow into that process, especially if we're thinking about creating a greater utilization for the outlying parking lots.
I think all of the parking lots have
Sidewalk, yeah.
connectivity already to downtown. To answer the first part of your question on what's planned next, the next segment for the sidewalk expansion is on Bennett Way, the upper portion of Bennett Way where the sidewalk stops, but connecting that up to Hersey Lane,
Yeah.
because there is sidewalk on Hersey Lane. Sidewalk on Hersey Lane is another thing that's been discussed recently because it's in really
Terrible shape.
poor shape.
It's barely a sidewalk.
Yes. So the Bennett and Hersey and potentially extending a little bit the other direction on Hersey from Bennett, a little bit to the south, trying to get my directions. It currently just ends at Bennett, but there's conversation about potentially extending a little bit further south towards like the Folsom Drive and Mockingbird, I think is the intersection. There's no width to go any further than that, but at least picking up that area. And there's been some discussion between DPW and PD about potentially adding it on the opposite side where there are some neighborhood roads that come together but don't have a safe way to cross to where the sidewalk is to extend. So that's another piece that has been a little bit of a focus of discussion on that. I think the other area that was identified in the sidewalk expansion plan was maybe Piscassic Street, because most of New Village has sidewalk, so it would be an extension of connecting that. I could be misremembering, but I think those are the last segments that were previously identified in that report that was done. Beyond those, I don't know if there are other areas that have already been identified or discussed that would be good places to look at next.
The only section of town that kind of jumps out at me is that the lack or the difficulty crossing the railroad tracks.
On 108.
Yeah, on
I would
108.
agree 100%.
Because
Yeah.
there's no real defined way for a pedestrian approaching those to, like, how do I get from here to there? You know, because
Yeah.
you have to cross the street if you're on the wrong side of the road, and if you cross the street there's no marked crossing, so you either know that beforehand and you cross earlier and then you're on the right side, but even if you're on the side where the sidewalk continues up, there's no pedestrian infrastructure that takes you across. And it's because the sight lines are bad, and there's another street coming in. It's a really tricky one, and I remember, I don't know, there was a lady from the Bennett Way neighborhood talking about that, and I remember us having that conversation when we did the road safety audit.
Yep.
So that may be, I know it's the railroad and it's not going to be easy, but I think that
Well,
may be something that we could
It's going to be
focus
part
on.
of the urban compact, though, too.
To how could we come up with some ideas for how we might be able to address that conceptually at least, and then see how we can move it forward.
And
Does that-
yeah. Oh, no, this is just a process. I know that you've talked about this sidewalk expansion that's budgeted now. So any further sidewalk expansion would be a year or 2 years down the road in the budgeting process?
Yeah, and the current, we don't currently
Gesundheit.
have quite enough in the budget to complete
What-
the Bennett Hersey stuff I'm talking about.
Right.
That's
That's the next one.
once we get enough, that's the next one on the list,
All right,
yes.
all right. I just wanted to clarify that so that.
Yep.
So what's the process for this? Is that how do you develop your priorities for what you work on? And, well, I mean, you obviously have some things that have to be done for the myriad of projects that are out there, and since you're working for just about everybody, apparently, that's a lot of projects, different kinds of projects. But how do you structure that for yourself? How does it rise to the top for you, and how are you able to allocate time? Is this something that you could add to your plate, or does this need to come as part of a more structured project? in order to be able to respond to it.
I think specifically the railroad crossing.
Yeah,
piece of it.
specifically just because it is
Yep.
such a gap
Mhm.
between the two sides of town,
Yeah.
you know?
I think
Two sides of town.
I would love to say that there's a quick way to address that, but I don't think there is, particularly because it's a railroad crossing.
Right.
So what may be a good approach is incorporating that into the discussion that we're having with DOT about the road safety audit and the pedestrian safety that's
Mhm.
immediately south
Yep.
of that.
Yeah,
Expanding that project area or project limit to include the railroad crossing so that we could get all of that considered as one large pedestrian safety improvement project. And in that case, then the engineering, safety studies, the traffic, the coordination
fall
with the
into that,
railroad,
yeah.
all of that could be done as part of that.
mm-hmm.
If it's a separate thing, I think it would probably take a lot longer, because there are those additional steps, and if that coordination is disconnected from what we're doing to the south, or potentially if we're gonna consider what was proposed in the charrette for the safety improvements at the Jerry Ave,
Yeah.
108, 152, if that crossing gets incorporated into that project and considerations there, then it could be addressed in a more cohesive plan that would connect further south and kind of just be general corridor improvements. As a standalone, I don't have the capacity to try to usher that in as a new project. It would probably be something that we need to scope out for design, permitting,
Yeah,
traffic analysis, and we would start laying out the progression of how that goes over the next few years and budgeting for those different phased elements. Whereas if we roll them into one of those other two, that's sort of, I would go with the Terrace and Bennett, because that seems like it's moving faster, coming into focus and moving
And it does
faster than
connect.
the other. And it does connect there, and
Yeah.
it's in keeping with the baseline goal of improving pedestrian safety.
okay.
So I think if we roll it into that, then it could,
Is that something that
Potentially
you
move
can,
forward.
you can kind of
I-
initiate and,
yeah, I can, as
Pursue?
we're having discussions about, and we are still having some discussions with DOT and Stratford Regional Planning Commission on potentially doing a pilot project for this coming year. I will make sure when we're having those conversations that I'm kind of working this into those discussions and
Okay.
considerations, so that as we go forward with identifying the project scope, we can try to work that in.
yeah,
I imagine they wouldn't try to cut that out because it's still in the whole, in keeping with the project goals and
yeah,
improvements.
okay, super. I think that would be really
Yeah,
worthwhile.
I think that intersection with the railroad is extremely important, because we see pedestrians crossing with no controls whatsoever.
Right,
So on the other side, there is a pedestrian gate, on the east side of 108, but on the west side, people just cross and there's no pedestrian control. So even CSX would rather have a pedestrian gate there and a proper
Yeah.
pedestrian crossing.
I wonder
Then-
if they're, yeah, I mean, I'll leave it.
CSX is very nervous about pedestrians. They
would
don't
be.
like pedestrians at all. And even look at what Dover made them do. They have to, I don't know if it's still happening, 15 miles an hour through the city. So they're just creeping through Dover. And now that you wait forever for the train to go by, because Dover limited their speed since that one person was killed a few years ago.
Wow.
Would you be able to share the sidewalk expansion plan with us?
Yeah.
Because that's really kind of a master plan,
Yep,
and
I
that's
agree.
I think exactly what we should be working on.
It's not really a master plan. It's kind of a.
Well, it's
So it's a bit
expansion.
smaller. Okay.
It's a plan.
Yes, it's a plan.
Well, I think there's always opportunity for us to we're not beholden to any budget, right?
Right.
And I think it's important that we don't limit ourselves just because money is not available. Well, money is never available unless you pursue it and you ask for it and you work
Yeah.
for it. So I don't think we should limit ourselves by what's possible under current circumstances. I think we should identify priorities and then try to pursue them. And I think sidewalks and walkability and connectivity, especially when it comes to sections like the railroad crossing are really, really important, because nobody wants to wake up one morning and hear that somebody got killed on at a crossing or something like that.
Yeah, didn't Exeter just lost somebody?
Exeter did?
Yeah. Just
It's a terrible
a
thing.
month ago or something?
They've had a couple in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
the other thing is the senior center's down that way. And I know that there are some people that live in town who utilize the senior center. And their only way to get there is to walk that path.
Yeah.
Walk that route.
Right, exactly.
And,
Exactly.
And, of all the people that should be walking that route.
Yeah,
it's-
the sidewalk plow actually has to go out because we have a sidewalk on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
So the sidewalk plow has to go out onto the travel lane at that point, because sidewalk just ends
Right.
at, in front of the old, Walter Genie's property.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it ends there, and then on the other side there's a sidewalk that ends also for the railroad,
Right,
and then picks back up. But there's that gap
Yeah.
that you have to kind of navigate by yourself. And so if we look at the goals, I think in the yellow field is where we'll find some of these pedestrian improvements and things. So if we go and pursue some of get a better understanding of what the expansion plan is currently, and if we identify priority corridors as is suggested, I think that might be a way to help build the plan into the future, right?
These goals are what's going to go into the master plan.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I think, these are higher level, broader goals, and that seems more appropriate. I love the list Mike came up with, but that seems like that's more of an internal, our working list.
Yes.
Day to day, not
Yeah, I think
necessarily to be in this.
I think we should be aware of these so that we can fit what we're doing into them.
Okay,
So we can, this relates to this priority, so that we can relate our work. We should be able to relate our work to the master plan. I mean, it doesn't have to be exclusive to that, but the majority of it should be relatable. And so if you look at that at the broad priority of connectivity, that really relates to the to walking and pedestrian and bicycling access, and I think we do have some work along those lines that we can fit there, that we also all would like to pursue. One of those is to work with the school district to assess feasibility of formalizing school trails, and whether that's the piece that ends up coming out of that or not, I don't know, but I think it would be interesting to develop a relationship with, or to go to the school board and present to them, or introduce ourselves as a resources and maybe as a forum to address some of those traveling to school issues, and see what if there's anything that they're working on that they're concerned with, so that we work off the same kind of game plan, if you
Or
will.
perhaps it could be the superintendent, because,
Yeah.
rather than the board.
Sure. Yeah.
And maybe we could even invite the superintendent to one of our meetings to discuss
Yeah.
these things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or somebody that he would like to send over as being more
Right.
involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoever might be in charge of
Okay.
student safety or. Yeah, and Bart had mentioned picking 2 or 3 from this list, and
Yeah.
if I were to pick something, I would certainly identify priority corridors for bicycles and pedestrian improvements to connect neighborhoods to downtown. That seems like a realistic. Even the share roads was one element of doing
Mhm.
that.
Yep.
But I that's true. These are very broad goals. These aren't very specific. These are this is master plan, so it's 10 years. This is something to work on for 10 years. I think we need to find something a little bit more narrow in scope, because these are just wildly vague and lofty.
Well,
Yeah, I kind of like that one though. I wonder if there's any like
the first one under on the
identify corridor.
priority corridors.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I wonder if is it possible to do any like temporary bicycle infrastructure to try and get something going in the town, like just like putting in a bike lane just with striping, or bollards or something like that, where we don't have to wait until the road has to be redone.
As a demonstration, like to try it out to see how it would work, or
Well, I mean, there's almost no bike infrastructure right now,
correct.
but to get something going, like in the most important spots, without having to wait until the road has to be redone, something before that.
So are you thinking of specific, do you have something specific road in mind, or specific?
Like a specific place.
Yeah.
Yeah, like trying to connect New Village to downtown
New Village.
with a bike road, a bike lane, or whatever we, think. Just like, is that possible to not wait until that road has to be
So you're suggesting
redone?
just painting a bike lane as
Yeah.
stripe?
I think there's some challenges, with the highway design, as far as because 108 we wanted a bike lane both parts of
Yeah.
108, and DOT said they couldn't make it that wide. They needed, I forgot what it was. It was something like 6 feet
5 feet.
wide. Was that 6 feet?
5 feet.
5 feet.
Bike lane requires 5 feet.
5 feet. So we just didn't have the pavement to work with, and DOT
Right.
just said we're not making the road that wide, and so the thing just disappeared from the budget, because originally that section between Durham and Newmarket was going to have a bike lane, and then
Yeah.
it shrunk, and then it shrunk again, and it is what it is. There's no money, so they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But it was that 5-foot thing that
Right.
Killed us.
5 feet.
Yeah, to have a designated bike lane, you
Yeah.
need 5 feet. So, that, particularly where you mentioned connecting New Road to downtown, or New Village to downtown would be
Yeah.
along Elm Street, and that street is not wide enough.
Right,
for
right.
that.
Yeah, and that's where those share road comes in, and just remind everybody. And Dover and Durham requested it. They 108 going to Dover to Durham became a bike route,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it wasn't a bike lane
Yeah.
because it didn't have the width.
But I think since there is some consensus around that topic
Yeah.
area, maybe that's we could really dig a little bit deeper into that goal. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's
Carol, do
an
you?
important priority.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so too. I mean, maybe that's why it's at the top. I don't know. Could be. And since we already have some kind of work going along those lines, that I would choose that one as well as one of the priorities for us. And for example, what kind of options are there to introduce better bike safety?
Yeah.
We jump to bike lanes, but that's a very costly kind of infrastructure project, what other options or what other possibilities are there that we might consider?
Yeah, or just doing anything, before the road has to be redone, you know? I don't know, I guess just with paint probably, but.
Is there any appetite for trying to put some meat on our desire to expand public transit in town?
I think that really comes down to looking at the ridership numbers and cost benefit. And if the numbers are great, yeah, then I'd say yes. But I think certainly the council, if it's going to cost money, they're going to want to see what's the benefit, how many people are doing it, and I think we need those numbers to help make it persuasive.
Right. Yep. That's true. I just think that we have this. The connector has a certain role.
Yeah.
But just 5 miles down the road, there's a pretty good bus network that
Yeah.
we can't access
Yeah.
anymore since Route 5 was killed. And my dream, of course, is to revitalize Route 5, in some capacity. Maybe not.
Route 5 was
Was Newmarket to Durham?
To Durham, okay.
Yeah, to reconnect us with
Right. No, I understand.
with Coast and with Wildcat.
No, I used to
Transit.
know, I used to know the coast route numbers, I just
Oh
didn't know.
yeah. Route 5. That's the first. Yeah. So, but is that something that we want to spend time on? Is that something that is something that the committee would be interested in doing? Is my question.
I mean, I think that is one where the reality of money comes,
Mhm.
and reality of significant money
Mhm.
comes in.
So maybe we focus on securing and the existing connector and making sure that survives the next 2-3 years.
I think that's more important in terms of everything needs to be given time to catch on.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen overnight, and it's only been since October. So I do think that securing that, and we excuse me, we know that the funding is. There was a year of funding. They might be there again. We don't know.
I don't think the
Let's-
year, I'm sorry, I don't think the year was even guaranteed. There was a certain dollar amount,
Yeah,
if I
there's a
understand
dollar.
it.
I'm familiar with the funding source.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
clarifying.
Oh, okay. There is a set amount, and if for some reason the service is so well utilized that the money runs out early, then yes, that is,
Then it will run out.
yeah.
Yeah,
The funding
okay.
itself, yeah, but that's the amount of funding for a year. So they, I believe, once again, just speaking from the original meeting that I went to in Exeter, they are keeping an eye on that so that, to try to make sure the funding doesn't run out. But that may mean having to cut back a day of service, making a cut somewhere if it's so well received.
But we, at this point, don't have that information.
At this
How well?
at this point, the utilization is in line with the budget.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah. At least that's the answer I've gotten.
So I wonder if it's possible, the people that are utilizing the service now, I wonder if it's possible to somehow query them on their desire to utilize Durham. If the service is very well received, is there a possibility that Durham, or at least the bus station in Durham, the transportation center in Durham, could be included in a future year? That maybe this can be expanded in the format that it's in right now.
No, I think that's exactly it. I think that's a way to approach that would be to get some figures from Coast, what it would take to expand service, or to expand service to in that direction as well.
And keeping in mind that the Newmarket Exeter connector was building on the Coast Route 7 on demand. So it was building on a service that was already here. Versus now you're talking going from here to Durham is a service that doesn't exist. So I mean they had the basic infrastructure and they've just kind of really changed how that works. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be worth the ask, I suppose, but I kind of like the thought that we should focus on securing the existing connector and making sure that it is
I mean,
on safe footing.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I said quite some time ago when I first said I'd be interested in participating in this committee is having lived in a town that and been on the Coast Board of Directors for that town. We won't mention it, Lindsay, but that once it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
And so trying to make sure you secure what is here rather than building everything from new. I do understand the desire to get into Durham. It makes perfect sense. But that is a whole different program. So I do think, making sure you can secure this connector and make sure it works. And once it's working and people are using it, but it takes time. It doesn't happen. There was one point in time that there was a medical bus that was going into Seabrook to serve people who were less advantaged and couldn't get to the doctors. And it has been resurrected, but it went away because it wasn't being utilized. Because people are skeptical. They want to make sure a service is going to be here.
Right.
So I do. I understand the desire. I really do. But I do also understand that it comes down to money.
It does.
And the money, particularly on the federal level, is is dwindling. So new sources of funding are
Well, that's essentially how we lost the connector to Durham before. So we
Mhm.
had it. There used to be 30 kids at Arbor Park bus stop
Yeah. No,
in the morning. There were tons of kids there, but the dynamics of the town has changed a little bit too. There's not so many UNH students living downtown as there used to be.
And when I first moved here, there was a Wildcats bus stop actually in my parking lot. That's gone.
Right.
Yeah, we lost both routes.
Yeah. And in that case, there were a few professors who lived on Bennett Way who were using it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's good reason for why Route 5 was discontinued from the university's perspective, but unfortunately that was our only viable connection to the area's public transit system, and I think as a town we should have been a little bit more alert when that happened. But it's very difficult to argue when you don't have any money behind you to make that argument, which we didn't. What other so far we kind of have the bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and maybe pedestrian improvements in general, and working toward kind of a more extending the sidewalk plan out into the future a little bit, and inviting the superintendent or inviting school district participation around some of these other priorities, maybe ensuring students have safe walking and biking routes to local schools, work with the school district to assess feasibility of formalizing school trails, those kinds of topics, maybe having that conversation around that and seeing what, whether there's any interest to work together on something around that. And if we are, or if Lindsay is able to kind of introduce the railroad crossing piece into one or the other project, then I think we're moving into the accessibility and the zero crashes that result in fatalities and serious injuries on roads in Newmarket. I mean, it's kind of an interesting goal to have.
Wonderful goal.
Right. I mean, it's always a goal, really. I mean, I don't see how you could possibly not want that goal, but it and maybe we're we can move into the developing a local safety improvement plan, and then the other piece there is the developing a municipal parking improvement and expansion plan, and we don't really have a plan. This is obviously a hot topic. People are talking about it. The chief is really interested in it. We're talking about parking. People in town, but we don't really have an approach. And the wayfinding and signage RFP will get us something toward that, but how do we approach planning? How do we parking, and what do we think about it? What are our priorities? What are some? For example, there are different approaches to parking. Some people say parking should be as close to the destination that you're going to as possible. Others are saying that you should locate parking in around the perimeter of downtown and encourage pedestrian use of a certain area. We don't really have a formal approach to that. That could be a guide. So that might be something that we could work on and offer to the planning board and the council if we're interested. It's just a somewhat lower cost thing that we could do ourselves. Here's an approach that we think is viable, that we could utilize as we think about planning for parking.
Yeah, it seems that for parking, we can tick off a few different goals with adding parking. I mean, I read an article about creating chicanes by alternating parking on both sides of the street. So now cars have to kind of, and there was a town, I think it was in Idaho, but they made it so that only one car could go at a time. So you had to, and there was a name for the road. It was like a yield way or something like that, where you say, oh, somebody else is coming, I have to wait for them.
Yeah.
Type of thing. But they every other block the parking was on the opposite side. So and I think if Spring Street, there's so many streets that people complain about speed. Spring, New Village, maybe there's an opportunity to do that, and then we do something like that. That actually probably improves bicycle safety at the same time if cars are going slower. But it'd have to find that. I'm thinking of Spring Street. Is it really an opportunity to do that? I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know either.
That'd be. I mean, it'd be kind of fun to take a walk on a warmer day with no snow, but we also have to really consider what snow looks like in the winter, because we can't create a situation we can only use when there's no snow. I don't know. I certainly, actually, one of the things I think, going back to what in the connectivity, there was one section, conduct demonstration projects to test traffic calming techniques.
Yep.
And we had that talk about
We did.
a new road, and we were going to try and create a neighborhood meeting, but it kind of never really happened. But
New Village.
New Village, sorry, yes. It does lend itself to some experimentation with traffic calming.
I'm not sure how people there would feel about. Well, it's a place to experiment, right?
Well, so many people going up the wrong way.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a problem. And it could be something as easy as a timber planter placed there so that it's like, okay, it's choked down to one lane. There's no reason for a left turn and a right turn coming out of there.
You mean 2 lane? Yeah.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
that's why people go the opposite way, because it's a quick shortcut. and they know they're not getting busted or whatever. But I do like those experimentations. I've seen towns do that where
Yeah.
they put a planter in and check it out for a year or something, and if it works, great, and I will make it a permanent dead end or whatever, pedestrian way or whatever it might be. You know,
It's also a way to try out parking.
yeah, and you can do it, and all of a sudden it didn't work. You just take the forks on the loader and get it out of here. But just do it for a year, and people don't complain as much when they think it's just a test, and they know it's just a test, and okay, we'll see how it goes, you know.
Are there some things that you would be interested in trying out and seeing if something works?
Some of those things in the
And could
village,
be,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And New Village has very wide roads in places where you wonder why is there so much pavement here in the first place? But since it's here, what else could you do with it?
Yeah, and I've seen rubber speed bumps that they put them down and they chain them to whatever, a post, and take them up for the winter. You know, I've seen those in some communities where, yeah, speed bumps are not that easy to plow over. The speed humps or tables are much easier. The slower, you know, the speed bump is really kind of a quick thing, and you hit it with a plow and you know it.
Yeah.
But but a rubber one, we could try it and slow people down, see if people go ballistic or they like it. You know.
The thing is, with those kind of experiments, we would really need to figure out a way to collect that information, because you can't rely on the people that get upset, because they will be speaking very loudly, and the people that don't mind will just not mind and not voice their opinion about it much. So I think we would have to have some way to collect information, and we need to make that part of the process, so to make it worthwhile when we're trying something out, especially speed bumps. But I do like the idea of maybe thinking about since trying something out. I don't know whether speed bumps or parking is the way, but I do like the idea of trying something out, and something that we could then maybe replicate in other parts of town. I don't know if New Village is the right place to try a heck of a lot of things out, because it's really it's such a neighborhood. But I do recognize that we should not lose track of that issue, because it is a safety issue. People going down a one way the wrong direction, and I do think we should pick that back up.
Yeah, we had some complaints from the neighborhood, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
And then the meeting never really materialized well. I mean, I think that for some reason something happened and we didn't get the notice out to the people.
Right.
But maybe we should try and pick that up again in the summer, in the nice weather. Try and get their ideas and engage them and see what they'd like to see there. But I do think there's some very inexpensive things that we could do to traffic calm. Chicanes with planters is one quick and easy thing. They have, a few $1,000s and it's done. Speed bumps, people love them or hate them.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's the type of thing I'm talking about. Trying to get something going, before it's one thing to get in the master plan, and then the new developments are going to be like this. But downtown and New Village, and those places are already there. And that's where people are going to be going to, as well. So I think it'd be worthwhile to try and see if we can, do something in the meantime. And planners, stuff like that. I think that's a great way to go. I don't know where the money. I'm sure it's. I don't know how we come up with the money for that type of thing, but.
Well, we'll figure that out. If we so we basically have, you know, two goals here. 3 goals already that we'd be working on, and if we add this as a kind of a demonstration, some kind of demonstration, and since we started that process in New Village, maybe we should go back to that.
When Lindsay worked on something on Ash Swamp Road last year. Was it last year? And that's exactly, you know, let's experiment. Let's see what works and what doesn't. And
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. We did the
The striping?
striping on Ash Swamp, and we
Yeah.
also did it on Hersey Lane, where the curve,
Yeah.
if you're coming from 108 up towards Bennett Way, the curve that's at the intersection
Yeah.
with Mockingbird and Folsom.
I love the idea of
It
just
really
trying
works there.
something
Yeah, that
and
one was-
evaluate it.
That one, we got some pretty good feedback on that one.
Yeah.
It helped slow people down, and it helped make the curve more visible, so
Mhm.
people could see where the road went. So that's, yeah, and we would like to do more of those in various areas. We did get some recommendations or suggestions of places to look at. So
Has
those are
has
places we
DPW
discussed.
looked at the, you know, the 2 turning lanes and maybe narrowing
Choke it
the-
down.
Yeah, narrowing that down to
on
one.
Cedar, that from Cedar Street that goes out to Elm?
Yes.
Yeah, is it
That's the one
Cedar?
you-
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
Cedar. Yeah.
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 I haven't.
Through striping?
Yeah, I haven't specifically discussed that with Rick, but I can ask him about it. I'm sure that's something that they've considered and could potentially be an easy trial to not stripe it that way this year, and narrow that up to see how it works.
I mean, the thing would be to disallow the utilization of, you know, a significant portion of the existing pavement.
Right.
So you can't drive there. It would have to be some kind of barrier, maybe not
Right.
just a striping. You know, because if it's still there,
Right.
it's not going to. You're not going to not drive over it if somebody's, you know, waiting
Yeah,
to
it
turn
would
and you
have
have
to be
room.
some barricades, or
Yeah.
it would probably be similar traffic control device items that we've been discussing with the Regional Planning Commission, because Colin Lentz at
Oh yes, yeah.
SRPC is looking to get a little bit of a library, I guess you could say, of some of those temporary
So we could borrow
devices
them.
that could be used within the region. I don't know where he's at on that, but that's also been part of our discussions in doing a pilot project at Bennett Way and 108, getting some of the materials for that the SRPC can kind of manage and loan out to communities to do some of these test measures.
I think that would be a great place to try something out and see. I mean, not even trying it out, because it's really responding to the residents of the neighborhood too. You know, who notice that people are going the wrong way because it doesn't look like it's a one-way street the way it's the width of it. And maybe there's some opportunity to collaborate with people in the neighborhood. You know, I
I think it
mean,
would be-
plantings can be placed once you
Yeah.
have the barricade. You know, once you have the formal barricades, whatever they are, you can beautify it a little bit and make it look less. I don't know. Maybe more attractive that way.
Yeah, that's a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
I think it is, a lot of these things are gonna be critical to get neighborhood input
Yes,
on.
I agree.
Particularly testing something out. You don't wanna go through the effort of testing something and putting something out there that may not actually get implemented. The purpose of the test is to make sure that what you're gonna invest in is gonna make sense.
Yeah.
And things like speed bumps are usually a quick thing for people that are living in the neighborhood to say, no, change my mind, we don't want this, because I don't want to drive over this every day.
Definitely. Yeah.
Or they hear the but all
Yeah,
the time.
or they have to
and-
hear it, and then,
Right.
so
It's-
that's often a quick one that you can
Yeah.
put them out for 2 weeks and get some pretty strong feedback
Yeah.
on that.
So do we have kind of consensus around, maybe we haven't defined the nature of the project yet, but we're kind of on the way, but that we make that another one of our goals to do a demonstration around, New Village?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great one, because we
Yeah.
did have that input.
Yeah.
We know that, I was just tossed this down the other way. It's just some companies making decorative Jersey barriers, and a forklift can lift them. And it's like, boy, that's easy,
Yeah.
And I remember Dover used Jersey barriers originally when they closed off the road by down the post office. Then they made planters.
Yep.
And then they permanently redid the street, but it's over a period of 10 years.
Yeah.
So they had Jersey barriers up for 1 year. They said, yeah, we kind of like it. Then they made these planters, and they kept them there. And then eventually they reconfigured the whole thing. But they made a street that had been through into a dead end.
Right.
But they just played with it. And they
Yeah.
said, okay, it works. Let's take it one step further. And,
Yeah.
So I actually lived in a town where the town owned planters that were 6 feet long, 2 feet deep, that they could
Yeah.
pick up with the forklift.
yeah.
And this is exactly what they did with them. They went around town into different places, and sometimes they used them to create a parklet,
Yeah.
like on a main street where they just took a couple of which we can't really afford to do here, but they
Yeah.
took a couple of parking spaces and they made a temporary parklet.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just kind of a community building thing, but then they also did do exactly what you're describing with this. They took them to places where they needed to test a change in the traffic flow without restriping or whatever. And the town just had them, and that's what they did with them. They
Right.
moved them around the town.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think they ended up becoming a permanent parklet. And,
Yeah.
after
Well,
3 or 4
those
years,
timber-
maybe they had done everything they
I've
wanted
seen
to do.
towns do the timber ones. They're just 6x6s, and
Yeah.
they make a planter, like you say. It's
Yeah.
6 feet long and 4 feet deep, and only a big old forklift can move it.
Right. Right.
Big machine, but nobody's gonna steal it on you.
It's not anything fancy, but,
Yeah.
and then people would put plants in it, and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
would end up, and it ended up kind of being a community thing, because people would end up putting painted rocks in there for you to find,
Yeah.
or there were just all kinds of things that went on with it that were fun, but anyway.
All right. In, looking at the time, is it okay if I send out notes, basically
Yeah.
cleaning this up a little bit, and then so that can go into the minutes,
And I'll send out that.
rather than trying to restate all of this right now?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Because I think we do have some areas, there may be more than 2 or 3 goals, but that's okay too.
It's okay.
I think
It's,
I think they're fine.
I've got goals that are 10 years down the road.
That's right, that's right. I do, I do too. And I have some that I've had for 10 years too.
Right.
Okay, well, with that, unless there is something else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Thank you very much.